this morning I'm seeing on breaking news that there's a COBRA meeting being organised to talk about the weather. And like, what are you going to talk about? What are they going to say? You know, Andy Byrne's already issued his edict yesterday, you know, a rapist at every postcode, which is not a great slogan as far as I'm concerned. But apparently the COBRA meeting is going to be called because Britain is bracing for more temperatures over 30 degrees. What's the point of a COBRA meeting about the bleeding weather?
Well, yeah, Mike, are they going to change the bloody temperature when it's coming in? And what we'll have now, Mike, is basically Andy Burnham will be doing a press conference tomorrow, putting us all in lockdown. Maybe that's what's coming next.
Yeah, don't go out in the sunshine. You might get sunburned.
Oh, and the bonkers thing about it, Mike, is they've put more of England in a drought now, haven't they? This week, I think they've said.
Yeah, I think 3/4 of Britain or 3/4 of England apparently is in a drought.
Yeah, well, Wales is fully in a drought. 3/4 of England, and we touched on this, didn't we? I think the last couple of weeks in terms of this water shortages. You only got to go back 6 months ago, and when I think you started the show, Mike, I think I was talking to you about how much rain we were having in the country. So, COBRA having a meeting. If they are actually having a meeting in the government, maybe they should be talking about the reservoirs that they need to stop bloody building in this country, and just let us enjoy the sunshine, Mike. You'll have a good time down here.
Yeah, just enjoy it. I was listening to a guy, and I know whenever I say it, I know everybody goes, "What are you doing that for?" But I was listening to a guy from Times Radio when I was on the way home last night or yesterday afternoon, and he was like the deputy property editor or something of the Times, and he said, it's making me really anxious, this weather, and I'm like, why? What's wrong with you? Because when it rains, I worry about it raining, and it's not raining enough. And the thing is, when it does rain, the ground is so hard because it's been baked by the hot sun that the rain will just, wash off the top of the ground. It won't go into the ground. And I'm going, mate, you've got not enough. I mean, this is the problem with middle-class Britain. They haven't got enough to worry about. He's now worrying about whether it rains or not, and if it does rain, whether the water will drain off the top of the soil. What's he worried about?
Oh, Mike, people like that, literally, they just live off anxiety, don't they? What is the point of worrying about the weather? You can't control the weather. No. As much as they keep saying, we need more rain, and you can't control it. We touched on this as well about we need more adaptation. We've got all this heat coming into the country. If COBRA should be talking about, maybe all new homes should have air conditioning in, and then you bloody got mad head a man saying, "Oh well, we can't have because of the climate, the amount of electricity you're going to use, you can't have air conditioning." No, people in the likes of Dubai, Mike, they don't get a lot of rain. They got plenty of water to use. They don't have to worry about showers and water in their gardens because they bloody adapt to the climate they're in. And if this emergency is coming that they keep talking about that for the last 10 or 20 years, I remember being in school, Mike, and they were talking about it about 30, 40 years ago. Yeah, if this thing's coming. Where's the adaptation? They just don't, it's all smoke and mirrors, Mike.
Well, I remember talking about 2 or 3 years ago on Talk TV about desalination plants. And people made fun of me and said, Mike Graham's so thick that he thinks that desalination plants are the answer. Well, really? That's actually what they use in the Middle East, right? That's how they manage to keep their water flow going, because they use desalination plants. We live on a bloody island, right? Surrounded by the sea. Why can we not use desalination plants? And that you get people going, it's not very environmentally friendly. Well, I don't care. All of the measures that we've apparently taken over the past 30 years haven't made any bleeding difference. So we might as well just carry on.
Yeah, totally, Mike. And talking of the seas, I know you've been speaking quite a bit this morning, but that clip you put up of Nick Robinson when he was talking about it's more like a bus service coming over the channel. Yeah. Well, I think you've got to look at the facts and figures on that. When you're going to get 230 people coming over on one boat, Mike, it's not a bus, it's not a taxi, it's more than an aeroplane. So
right.
When you go to, if you get to Paris airport today now, and you get on an aeroplane to fly into London, how long does it take to, everybody got a board? There's already seats there. So you just got to get onto the plane, sit on the seats. But, it takes a bit of time, though, just to even do that. So you don't get a boat with 230 migrants trying to get on. And they're not getting on there within a couple of minutes, are they? It must take a bit of time to get on. So I thought that they can't even bloody stop that in France, Mike. With 230 people.
Do you think they might have, do you remember they've got speedy boarding? So when you get down to the beach, you go, you've got your speedy boarding pass, on you go first, It is, you're right. I mean, how can they not see it happening? How can they not just shoot a bloody great big hole in the dinghy and go, sorry guys, today you're not going anywhere?
Yeah, and the thing is, Mike, so first of all, where are the boats coming from? They didn't just drop from the sky, did they? So they obviously get to the beach in the first place. And then when the government intercepts them, or the RNI intercepts them, the other question is, where are all these boats going to as well? Because obviously the government must have a shed load of boats they should be using. And the thing is, we talk about deterrence, Mike, and I love that clip. And Lee mentioned it just now. You showed last week about the Greeks firing them back into Turkish water. But the thing for me, right, Mike, when you talk about a deterrent, when you hear people and they get interviewed, why are you coming to Britain? What's this all about? I know people who are already here, so I want to come over. It's nothing to do with fleeing bloody war and persecution. No. It's just like enjoying friends. So the thing for me, Mike, which I don't know if this sounds very simple, but if you did return them all to France, people say, the French wouldn't be happy. But I would imagine people in northern France, we're well pissed off in this country that they're all being put in these different communities. People in northern France don't want them in these camps in northern France because they're a risk there as well. So if you return them to France, so that basically France is saying you've got no route to Britain, I would imagine most of them aren't even going to bother going to northern France. No. They just go somewhere else. Yeah, right. So if since France, if we just return them, and that's the bonkers thing about this, Mike. We keep saying, we can't return them to France. I think the French would probably find that if we did return them straight to France, they wouldn't bother going to these camps because they'd be thinking, I'm wasting my money going. I may as well go somewhere else.
Might as well go somewhere else. Yeah, exactly right. And that's why Reform's idea that came out this week, which is to, if the country of origin, wherever they came from, doesn't want to take them back, send them to El Salvador. See how they like that. And as soon as they know that that's what's likely to happen if they turn up, then they'd probably stop coming.
Oh, totally, Mike. I'm a big believer that we should put some of these kind of temporary accommodation up on the Scottish Islands, off the mainland. If they can't come to this country and do something in this country, then they're not going to come here. I think Andy Burnham was being interviewed on the BBC last night. They were talking about these raids that the BBC have been kind of following, where they go around finding illegal, like vapes and illegal cigarettes and all these under the counter stuff. And a lot of this is being run by these illegal migrants as well. And some of them are coming over. They're claiming that basically they want to claim asylum, but they're coming over on these boats and they're working for the gangs themselves, who they claim that they're paying. Some of them aren't paying anything to come on these boats, Mike. They're coming over to work for the gangs and
to work their passage. Yeah, absolutely. You've done a good Substack this week, as you always do, about productivity and how the country's really, really suffering, because we hear all the time, don't we, from Andy Burnham and his ilk, that what we've got to do is get our productivity up. We've got to put investment into business. We've got to get growth. And I said earlier in the week, how about you just give us a bit more money back in tax, and then we can decide what to do with our own money. But the productivity levels are so low that basically, we're going nowhere, aren't we?
Yeah, so the ONS do some productivity numbers, and basically what productivity measures, Mike, is how much kind of output are you getting and how much you've got to put in for it.
Yeah.
They looked at public sector productivity on this, and what's bizarre is we're in 2026 now, and they finalised the figures for 2025. They've done some revisions in the future to them, but the latest figures that they published is that if you look at public sector now, the whole public sector productivity is still lower now, Mike, than it was in 2019. So it fell off a cliff during COVID because the government chose, obviously to close the NHS. Those bonkers trying to sort outside GP surgery saying, don't come in here if you're ill. I think, well, what's the bloody point of going to see a GP if you're ill, isn't it? Hospitals cancelling non-urgent, operations. Most of the public sector, and if not all the public sectors, told the work, stay at home, don't come in. And many of them still haven't returned. So what we've got, Mike, is we're nearly 6 years on from COVID, and the public sector is producing less than it was in 2019. Now, if that doesn't have a call for an investigation, you think with AI and advancements in technology, surely there should be more productivity.
Yeah.
But we're getting less, Mike. So per person in the public sector, they're producing less. It's about 2.5% less. And the NHS is even worse, Mike. So you think all that money they'll talk about, we could put billions into the NHS. I think before we start taxing us more, spending more, we should be asking, what are the bloody staff doing that they're producing nearly 6% less than what they were doing in 2019?
Yeah. Well, look at it. Look, just from the point of view of the front pages this morning, a piece that I was just talking about before you came on, hundreds of family doctors are earning at least £300,000 a year from the NHS. Right, so these people who are continually claiming that their work's over the odds, they're not. It's impossible for them to make any money. It's really hard for them to make a living. Some of them are having to leave and go to Australia. Oh, really? 300,000 quid? I think you're doing all right, mate. I don't think you should be worrying too much about where the next meal's coming from.
No, they're doing all right, mate. And the big question is, can you even get a GP appointment? Because that's the one of the biggest gripes in this country. We're just after 8 a.m. on right now, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people trying at 8 o'clock. They're trying to get through the switchboards of these GP surgeries, trying to get an appointment. That's another one, mate. We haven't got enough reservoirs. We haven't got enough GPs. We haven't got enough houses. We've got this story, I think, in North Wales as well, Mike. You've been talking about the migrant crisis that are coming over, but people in North Wales are fed up, I think, because they've just overnight put a load of these asylum seekers into these houses that have been built. They thought they were going to be used for the local community. They've been put in, and the local council have come out saying there are no illegal migrants, they're here because they're asylum seekers. No, they're just cheating the bloody system, Mike. So, the productivity puzzle, well, the puzzle is, we are not getting enough out for what we're putting in. Taxes will keep going up, Mike. And the NHS bosses will be saying, oh, well, we need more money. Why are we not doing the same level of output in the NHS today as we were in 2019? I know we had a pandemic, but there's no call for the fact that working practice, we've normalised, Mike, this lazy culture in the public sector.
No, we have, totally. And I mean, unfortunately, people like Andy Burnham have only ever known the public sector as a place to work. They've never, ever done a proper day's work in a proper business where you actually had to make ends meet and you actually had to generate income, because all he knows how to do is distribute other people's money. His latest idea, for example, is to now give more money back to local authorities. And you know where that's going to go. It'll go down the gurgler, because the one thing worse than actual central government spending is local government spending, because what you do is you go, and it's like in your neck of the woods, but certainly where I am in London and where I go at the weekends in Sussex, they spend money on the most ludicrous projects and the most ridiculous things. They're corrupt, many of them, and they're also, completely and honestly without any idea of how to actually, generate proper, decent people's income rising. They don't know how to do it. Let me just read you this from Chris. I wanted to see my doctor, so I got in line to make an appointment. Then I was told to fill in a form online for the doctor to read and see if I needed seeing him. What a joke. Well, that's the other thing. I mean, they're doing this now, aren't they? They're working through this so-called triage scenario. Somebody sent me a letter the other day that they received from their local GP, in which they were told basically, well, we're starting a new system. So when you get in touch with us, we will decide whether or not you're sick enough to see a doctor. More than likely, you'll just get told what to do by a receptionist who's not medically trained. Well, sorry, that's not medicine. That's not what they're doing, right?
No, Mike, you're spot on there. On our local authority stuff you were just chatting about there as well. The thing is, Burnham's saying we'll give more money back to local areas. And you started off this chat today, Mike, by saying, why don't you just give bloody more money back to us? We don't need the local authority money. Stop taxing us as much as we are. I'm a big believer, Mike, that the best people to decide what to do with money are the people who are earning it. And don't forget, the word earnings is there. You've done a hard graft. You've earned that money. So why should the government just steal it from you? We need some level of taxation, because there are a number of services where it benefits. We all pay into a pot because we get some services back. But the level of taxation in this country is getting obscene. And you think local authorities as well, it's not that far back in distant memory where you'd get a weekly bin collection. We can't afford that now. So it's now 2 weeks.
Yeah, what they do with all the money. The council tax has gone up by a factor of probably 10 to 20% in the past 5 years, which is a lot of money, by the way. And we're getting less and less for it.
And thinking of water bills, Mike, how much have they gone up in the last couple of years?
No,
and you're getting less and less for it. You're not even allowed to use the bloody stuff.
I know. Please don't use your hose pipe. Really? Well, I'm not buying that one either. Anyway, listen, Jamie, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Jamie Jenkins talking perfect sense. Go check out his Substack because it's really good.